Right, so what we want to do now is we want to start creating our component. So I said let's create the button component, but what I'm actually going to do is create a page component. So let's go ahead and do that. So in our root directory here, I'm going to create a new folder. In here is going to be the source folder, and now this needs an index.ts file. So this is where we will export all of our components. So we need to create the component, then export it. So in source now, let's create a new folder called components, and in here we're going to create our first component. So the component we're going to create is going to be a page, and let's say this page takes in a title and some props. So now what we want to do is in this page folder, let's create a new file. This will be index.tsx, and in here all we want to do is rafce. This is a page component, and we want to pass in props. So this will take in title and children. So this is just normal React here what we're doing. So essentially now we receive them props, we need to pass in the type. So this is react.fc, and then we now need to pass in the type in here. So this will be page props. So now in the page folder, we've got the index.tsx here. So now we need to create a new file called types.ts. So we want to separate our concerns and our logic. So export type of page props takes in the title and the children. So we need to import React from react.node in here, but now you can see here it says cannot find namespace of React. And what we need to do now is we need to install all our files in package.json, because we did add the peer dependencies of React in here. But what I also want to do is install React and React DOM in our library over here. So we'll do that in a moment. So again, in here now we get a div, and this div, or we'll change this to a React fragment. And then in here, what we want to do is we want a h1, and in the h1 it's going to render the title, and also we want to have children. So any children that are wrapped in this page component is going to be in here. So essentially pass in the children. Now what we need to do is import page props from the relevant type, and then all that needs to be done is to install the relevant things that we need. And the good thing on why we're using TypeScript is because it's telling us where the errors are. So all we now need to do is essentially fix the errors. So all we need to do in our terminal is npm i dash dash save dash dev, and in here we want React, and we also want React DOM as well. So let's install them. And now these errors should go away because we've imported them in as dev dependencies. If they still are showing up like this, then what you need to do is restart your TypeScript server. So that will be Command Shift and P, and then you search for TypeScript restart TS server. So let's click that, and now you can see there's errors still showing up. So what is happening here? If we go in our package.json, we now have React and React DOM showing, and also everything else is in here. But essentially what we'll do is close this down and save it, and then reopen it. So now if we hover over the error, if we go in here, you can see here it says could not find declaration module in for React. So we also need to add the types for React because we're using TypeScript. So let's add them in as well, and now you can see all of the errors have gone. So that is our component created. We've created it using the page component, and we also have types in a separate folder. What we will also do is add unit tests and jest as well, just to make sure everything is working correctly, and when we pass in props and receive props, then also that is working correctly as well. So what we now want to do is be able to test this out. So let's go ahead and actually make our first roll-up bundle, and then we will be able to visualize and see what we are doing, and we will install Storybook after that. So the next thing we need to do is first of all look at the module bundler of rollup, which is in the diagram that we looked at the beginning, and this is what bundles all of our files together. One last thing to do, we have this index.ts file over here. Now we need to export everything from the page index.tsx file here and then export it out over here. So let's go ahead and do that. So export, and then essentially what we want to export is the page. So it's going to be export default as page from component slash page. If there was more in here, you would do export default as button from the button component and so on. So essentially you're exporting each individual item and then you are having the tree shaking functionality. So you don't basically need to import the entire library. You just need to import what you want to use, such as if I wanted to use the page component in my application, then I would do that, and the same with the button. So that's how you would do it. And then all of the logic for the component is handled in here. So let's go ahead and save all of this, and then what we're going to be looking at is Rollup as a module bundler next.